Hey, what's up? Welcome to BlackSwanRadio.com. This is another podcast made by yours truly, Rondale Jordan. And if this is your first time here, this is your destination for worldview conversation and flight music. My premise is based on exploring and experiencing, experimenting with the Word and world of God. Because I believe the two are synonymous and also includes the sword of God, which no weapon formed against what God has ordained shall prosper. When we look into our social atmosphere, which has become more and more digital day after day, year after year, we look at the programming, we look at the fruits in our social atmosphere, and we must put it in perspective. We need to peep game to know how to maneuver. And one of the things I recognize in our culture is that we have subcultures, and in the African American subculture. And when I talk about African American, I'm talking about the Afro Americans from the United States specifically, because I'm here in that domain. And I'm able to peep game. I see how politics, how the media, how certain instruments are used to occupy, preoccupy, and mobilize people through emotional responses, through obligation, through programming. And, when we are in a society, we have to realize that there has to be systems in place to mobilize and to create order among the masses. But just like a shepherd who looks over his sheep, right? He uses the shepherd dog, the German shepherd, the dog, to keep the sheep in line, right? To maintain boundaries. And so this is the reason why when we look at society, the social structure of things, it's often put in the perspective of the shepherd and the sheep. This is the reason why the scriptures are written this way. With all that said, where I'm going with this is that there's a programming that is designed to keep the mainstream moving in a controlled direction, which we have to have respect for, because disorder is obviously not good for anyone. We often talk jokingly at work about scenarios when the systems have all failed and we no longer have a government in place, and we no longer have the amenities that we have, the Wi-Fi, the electricity, and now we're back into survival mode. It's like Fortnite out here. And how we would maneuver, right? Now, of course, we don't really want to see ourselves in that situation. Perfect scenario in that, if that ever happened, would be that you would be one of the chosen ones who have already left, right? Who escaped, right? Who were part of the rapture. Those people who have departed before the calamity, before the fall. Which, this is the reason why I say often, where's your faith leading you? You know, you shouldn't just be saying the storm is coming, the storm is coming. It should be the storm is coming and this is what we're doing. And at this point, you know that you're going to need a savings, right? You know you're going to need an income. You know you're going to need to have passports. You're going to need to have a knowledge of places abroad if you plan on having an outer perspective, right? You're going to need a network. You're going to need certain things and experience and skills, and you're going to need health in order to be able to maneuver in that way. But if you are here in the failed system, right? Let's say the currency is fallen, whatever has happened. We all have different strategies on how we would deal in these situations, and some say, well, let's build a bunker, right, and store food in this bunker. And I really don't think that's the best bet. It might buy you some time, but ultimately, you don't know how long you will need to be prepared for. You don't know if it's going to be for months, weeks, years, decades. You see what I'm saying? How long did the Iraqi war in Iraq last? It lasts for decades. So you don't know how long the instability will be. So being able to say, I'm going to sit in a bunker for an extended period of time, you don't know, because that's only going to buy you a certain amount of time before you need fresh water or fresh ventilation or sunlight, vitamin D, help, medical care, whatever it is, you're going to need to come out of that bunker. And when it's required to come out of the bunker, you're now in the elements. And this is if you're not found, right? If you're found, right, then the supply is most likely going to get pirated, and you cannot really rely on heavy weapons because you have to be able to transport this, and there'll be checkpoints, and you're going to have to be inconspicuous about how you maneuver with weapons. So having large ARs and specialized weapons that require special ammunition is not going to really, in the long term, benefit you. So there's certain things that people have to really think about. The pirates, the gangs, the checkpoints, the desperation of people who really do not have any consequences when it comes to law and order. So the main theme of being prepared or aware or understanding the prophecies is to understand that the prophets were being mobilized by their faith, right? Abram, he went out from the land of his kindreds, which was in the Mesopotamian region, which would be in the modern day Iraq, right? And he went what we would consider today westward into the land of Canaan and as far down into Egypt. And when he went into Egypt, upon his arrival, right, he caused confusion with his wife, right, because he told the Pharaoh that his wife, Sarai, was his sister, which indicated that she was available, right, that she was single when she was actually a married woman. She was his wife. Now, did he lie? Technically not, because she was his half-sister that he revealed later on when he did the same deception in Gedir, right, with but he did it twice. And so the point that I'm trying to make is that he was a foreigner who was being led out of his fallen state, which is Sodom, Gomorrah, right, and he went into a foreign land and he built an altar there, which means that he was led by his faith. and into a new paradise, right? He picked the prime land, him and his and Lot, and they created a new beginning there. And with him, he brought his livestock, his wealth, his livestock, which also included male and female servants, one of which was Hagar, who would eventually bear his firstborn son, Ishmael. All right. And this stuff has a lot to do with Islam and Christianity, right? It has to do with conquest, right? And the mixing of the bloodlines to create holy ones. All right. Now, as Afro-American people, we have a unique bloodline. And we don't really look in things in these terms because the information given to us from the scripture is controlled by the institutions which we call the church. All right. And we're in the English territory, so in the English colonies, which were dominated by the Protestants who were not Catholic, right? Because if we were not Englishmen, we would be Latin and Catholic, most likely. But I say all that to say is that we have to consider what makes us who we are in order to fully understand who we are. All right. And when we find out who we are, we see that we are a combination of a specific lineage of bloodlines, which has biblical relevance. And because of this trinity of the English mixed in with the indigenous, mixed in with the African, it provides us a perspective that's unique on the earth and that is valuable on the earth. So when we read the word independently, outside of the confines of the mainstream institution, which is designed to control what the masses see and think and perceive and act and behave, how they spend their lives, right? But the key is to know that God knows, right? That in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be open and you'll be like God, knowing good and evil. Because obviously both of these, the shade and the shine, the dark and the light, are both part. But when this woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and the tree desirable to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. She also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. And the eyes of both of them were open, and they knew that they were naked. They knew. Knew is to know in past tense. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves coverings. They were no longer naked, uncovered, right? Unprotected, innocent or ignorant. Because innocence is only innocence until you become a certain stage in your life, until it becomes ignorance. But in this case, they were kept in their ignorance by their masters. So therefore, they were not really guilty like Noah was in his vineyard, who got drunk and was unconscious due to his own right? His self-indulgence of his own supply. My point is, this knowledge makes you like God, but that is being kept from you. And this is what I'm trying to give you, perspective. Thanks for listening.